This video is sponsored by EA, and that is of course because I was gifted with early access to the brand new expansion pack Adventure Awaits. So big thank you to EA for providing me with this set early access time. And in this video, we're going to be looking over Gibbi Point. We're going to get to know all of the locals when it comes to the townies and the quests that you can do, the festivals, the neighborhoods, all of the lot sizes. It's been many years since Gibbi Point experienced the Great Wave, a seismic event that swept through and helped carve out unique landmarks and created lush flora and fauna, the likes of which many Sims have never expected to see. Once part of a jellyfish processing industry, Jellyfish Junction more recently rebranded itself as an eccentric, artsy neighborhood with scenic harbor views. Crystal Valley has been transformed from a gold mining community into more subdued spot home to a large, feathered creature and the fabled electric lagoon. And then Wanderwood Wilds is a secluded, woodsy neighborhood where you can find hothead rock geyser. The locals say it's a real blast. A peculiar climate, Gibbi Point's weather sees all seasons, even snow. Why does that feel like it's a dig on the Sims team recently? We have not been getting snow in neighborhoods in worlds of recent packs, so this time around they have shifted that. However, its many underground hot springs keep the waters tepid and inviting, allowing for swimming and water activities all year round. Outdoor retreat could never. It's an outdoor pack, but can you catch anything in the wintertime? I guess you can still get the insects, but you cannot fish in most worlds when it comes to winter. So I, for one, am really thankful about that. I don't know if some people will maybe find that a cop-out. I much prefer it. Like, if I'm gonna be swimming, if I need to like go on camps and stuff, I would prefer to do like the outdoorsy stuff in this world when I'm restricted in so many others. Gibbi Point is made up of 3 neighborhoods in total and 13 lots in total. Obviously, when it comes to the new lot types, we did already get the playground lot type in the latest base game update, which dropped last week. So everyone, if you updated your game, should have that already actually within your game. Of course, with this expansion, we are also getting custom venues, which you can also share to the gallery. And of course, this world is inspired by New Zealand. Starting off in the first neighborhood of Wanderwood Wilds, the strength it takes in me to not say Wanderhood. Life in Wanderwood Wilds sure is a blast. Literally, hothead rock geyser may be the main draw to the area, but there's more in these woods than meets the eye. Sims can enjoy the great outdoors near campfires, kayak in the open water, and fish to unwind. Visit the old Firewatch Tower, perhaps to offer your gratitude to the one who keeps watch. That's me. This play is in fact about me, the Watcher. Be sure to check in with the Butterfly Conservationist if you're feeling a little fluttery. And there is a festival that happens here. That is Round the Fire Festival, which happens every weekend. Don't think it happens on a Friday evening, but definitely happens the evening of Saturday and Sunday. Wanderwood Wilds is made up of 4 different lots. There's one 30 by 20, which is a residential that already has a townie family living in it. One 40 by 40, which is of course the new playground. Then one 50 by 50, which is a custom venue. This is the kids camp known as Camp Gibbi Gibbi. And then one 64 by 64 Zoo Lane that you lot can do with what you want. It is obviously a residential right now, that is the preset, but it is just an empty lot that is just filled with trees, so you can make that a custom venue, you could make it another getaway place. You can actually live on a lot and also host a getaway there. I've already mentioned Hothead Geyser. There are a couple of things that you can interact with around Hothead Geyser. I will say in this neighborhood, if you notice really loud noises like a rumbling every so often, that just basically means that the geyser is about to erupt, and you will hear it no matter where you're playing in this lot. I'm not too sure which setting in the audio would bring that down. I can't remember off the top of my head all of the audio I imagine it's like sound effects or environment, something of that nature, if it is a little bit too loud. If you're not a huge fan of thunder in seasons, I doubt you're going to be a huge fan of this. It could definitely just interrupt your gameplay like a little bit. Also mentioned was the Butterfly Ranger Station. This is actually where you can find a sim that isn't actually living in the world, but you can find them in managed households, and that is Lakshmi, who is actually Rahim's sibling, and they are known as the Butterfly Conservationalist. They kind of hang around outside this little building that is just a shell, but it does highlight, and then there are a few interactions that you can do. You can click on any of these kind of ranger stations in each of these neighborhoods, and it will focus on different areas of the map. So if you are struggling to find some stuff, not gonna lie, the ranger station is also sometimes quite hard to see, but it's that shell that you see in like the middle of the map, so it is quite close to the playground and Camp Gibbi. There's also a couple of interactions on the fire watchtower. You can write to the hermit, and I think you can also like leave something for them. I actually didn't do either of those interactions, so I don't know if maybe you can kind of like build a relationship with them or kind of leave notes to each other. And like I said, they're around the fire festival, where you will be able to find the Plumbird expert and also the lawkeeper. The playground is called Plumbird Park. Swing your cares away whilst taking in a bird's eye view of the Hothead Rock Geyser. Don't ask me whose bright idea it was to create a playground right next to a geyser that can actually flow with lava. The custom venue is Camp Gibbi. Camp Gibbi offers stunning lake views and a sturdy dock, perfect for jumping into refreshing waters, creating unforgettable adventures in the heart of nature. The completely empty lot is Hothead Rock Hideaway. This expansive lot offers breathtaking views of the historic old fire watchtower. Surrounded by lush forests, it's the perfect place for nature enthusiasts, and this has the convivial lot trait, which is hilarious considering it says but intimate feel and it's a literal forest. And finally, for the 30 by 20, this is where you will find your first household. This is the Chavez Ralston household. Family patriarch Nigel is living out his childhood dream as a camp director at Camp Gibbi, whilst his wife Sarah is channeling her love of creativity and chaos as camp counselor. Their twin daughters Eris and Erin often seem like polar opposites as well. So a little bit of a strained relationship between these two. I like to think they are like the pancakes and they actually have their own separate bedrooms. Let's just say Nigel has pretty much abandoned most of his relationships to start running Camp Gibbi. And they live in Wanderwood Wonder. Oh my goodness, could you have made that any harder for me to say? Situated near the enchanting Butterfly Ranger Station, this charming cottage exudes rustic elegance, surrounded by vibrant gardens and peaceful woodlands, providing an idyllic retreat for those seeking harmony with nature. The next neighborhood is Crystal Valley. Once a bustling gold mining community, Crystal Valley earned its name after an unusual occurrence took place. Overnight, the Scoops gold mine dried up only to be replaced by crystals. Now you can visit and pan for crystals or stop by the electric lagoon for a neon jellyfish swim accompanied by a glowworm backdrop. Visitors may want to keep their eye out for a unique bird too. Check out the Stop and Know Center to learn more about this area. And then the festival that happens in this neighborhood is the Sunrise Sunset Festival. This is actually the biggest neighborhood, if you can say that. The other two have 4 lots. This has 5 lots in total. There is one 20 by 20, which is the lounge. That's kind of in the center of town. Then there are 2 30 by 20s. Both of these are pre-built residentials. So these have already been built by simmers. Of course, I will be giving a shout out to the simmers who have created all of these lots. So you can go check out their channels. You can go check out the videos that they have made on that full process. But one of these is kind of a starter home. It's actually a 3-bedroom house, I'm fairly sure, but it's only 23,000 simoleons. So if you do have more than like 1 or 2 sims in your household, I think technically you'll start with like enough simoleons to be able to purchase this house. Whereas the other one is a much more modern home and is worth a lot more money, kind of for those pre-established families. Or maybe you have a more like modern, like tech-driven family. Can I just say the builders absolutely popped off with the glass walls in all of these builds. Obviously, glass walls were introduced in the base game update before Enchanted by Nature, and they have used them to their fullest this expansion, which creates some really cool like 70s retro vibes, especially in like a lot of the bedrooms and a lot of the bathrooms. It's just really neat to see builders kind of taking those things that are introduced in the game and like applying them to the new builds. The next one is 140 by 30, which is a completely empty residential, nothing built on there, so it can be whatever you want it to be. And finally, we have 150 by 50, which is a residential. However, the Love Highland Getaway actually works there. So you do have people living in there. If you go on the Love Highland Getaway, that's also where it's going to be hosted. Panning for crystal kind of just works like wadeable water. You go to the very side of like a river and you can choose to pan. I think this is maybe the only neighborhood that you can do it in. Here you'll also up near the old mine, which is kind of the building that you can see next to the bridge. You'll find Buddy and you'll actually be able to play rock, paper, scissors with him for collectibles. You'll also be able to trade up your collectibles with him. I'm really excited to play around with that as someone who has, of course, been doing the all collections challenge. I kind of want to play around with that in that save and see what we can get from Buddy. There is, of course, the electric lagoon. Here you can also fish for jellyfish. It is a new delicacy. There is a grilled jellyfish plate that you can eat. The plumbird's nest can be found in this little like ring of trees right next to the garden if you're struggling to find it. For the 20 by 20, this is Fearful Fish Lounge. Sims love it, fish fear it. This lounge is an angler's delight, much to the dismay of any fin creature at Gibbi Point. Stop by between catches. It's quite funny to me that this lounge is in this neighborhood and not the next one, because I feel like the next one kind of has a few more fishing spots dotted around. Then for one of the 30 by 20s, you have Miner's Mats. Settle down in this cozy home with lovely valley views. This is actually the house that I decided to live in for my early access videos. So if you want to see it in like more detail, actually see a family living in it, then you can go check out my gameplay overview. The other 30 by 20 pre-built lot is Crystal Cottage. This modern house in the historic mining town features sleek architectural design and a refreshing pool, seamlessly blending contemporary living with the area's rich heritage. I really, really like this lot. Usually I'm not one for like a modern lot, but I think they absolutely smash this one. I just think a lot of these lots have very much paid attention to detail, and I can only thank the creators for that and the builders that were chosen for this pack. The 40 by 30 empty residential is Prospector's Paradise. In a town with a storied mining pass, this empty lot is located near Scoop's Gold, providing convenient access to crystal panning and a chance to be part of a community steeped in history. And finally, the 50 by 50, this is where the Adam commune actually reside. Jane and Star Adam are known for their Love Highland Getaway and for their prickly personalities. They're joined by 2 roommates, Skip and Agora. Now, Skip broke if you have played The Sims 2. This is apparently where he has run away to. There isn't actually a relationship between him and Dustin, even if you own Get Famous, so I guess that's open to your interpretation. I do kind of wish that he had made him his farther if you do happen to have that pack, but unfortunately that is not the case. And Agora Chochki was actually a sim in Life Stories, which I have never played Life Stories, so if you know Agora, she's back in The Sims 4, and can I just say, I think she got glow up. If you're looking for someone to romance in the Love Highland, Agora might be my girl. And the lot name is obviously Love Highland. Love is in the air at this coveted getaway lot. Meet someone new whilst kayaking nearby or whilst taking a dip in the hot tub. Opportunities for romance and drama abound. Finally, there's Jellyfish Junction, which I did say that the last one was technically the biggest neighborhood in the sense that it had 5 lots. This one only has 4 lots, but this one actually feels pretty big. There's quite a few like little nooks and crannies to be explored, and I think that this might be my personal favorite neighborhood out of all of them. It just kind of feels like this one has a lot happening. Jellyfish Junction is known for its unique artistic vibe, attracting not only creatives but also kayakers and tourists eager to explore. Visit with Toshi, our storyteller, to learn more about Gibbi Point adventure quests. Check out Fletcher's Point and the Lonely Lighthouse, a previous plumber hotspot named for the arrow fletching. From Underlight Bay to the this or that shop, there's something new to discover in Jellyfish Junction. And then there are actually 2 festivals that happen here. The Fitness Fest, which happens every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Apparently on Wednesday, the like class you're meant to dress up for, or like townies are meant to dress up for it. I personally didn't notice anyone dressed up on mine, but I feel like it may have been broken on mine. And then the Glow and Flow Festival, which is kind of similar to my wedding stories. There's like algae, glowing algae that is in the bay that you basically like sleep in, and some people can make grilled jellyfish. There's one 30 by 20 lot, which is a pre-built residential. This again is a starter home. It actually only cost 19,000. This is definitely the most retro like 70s build. I really like that cottage as well. Then there are 2 40 by 30 lots. One is a vacation rental. Obviously you can freely choose to make that whatever you want. A lot of people may actually use this as a custom venue or a livable getaway. Maybe choose the bed and breakfast getaway. I feel like it was maybe built for that. And then the other is a residential that again a townie family already live on. And then finally there is one 64 by 64, which is already a custom venue, and this is the fitness retreat. So this is where you will find Revive and Thrive. If you go on that getaway, you will be in this lot. Whilst I said this felt like the biggest, there are also probably the most kind of like interactive-y bits around here, but they are rabbit holes. So you do have the papercraft store, which you can basically just buy like some of the stuff that you can make with the paper crafting skill and on the paper crafting item. And then the this or that shop really just sells like kayaks, or if you have island living, it does sell the boats. You can wander around to the lighthouse and you'll actually find 2 different letters stuck onto the lighthouse, which you can actually reply to, and it does play through a little bit of like storytelling as you respond to these messages. I didn't get to the end of them. I actually only responded to them once or twice. You can also turn the lighthouse on at nighttime. I'm not sure if it turns on automatically. In each of these, there's also a playground. So in the 2 neighborhoods that I have discussed, obviously there isn't a playground lot. However, there are just like playgrounds dotted around the world, so kids will still like play on there. There is also an interactive map where you can find Toshi. Once you actually start completing her quests, then you'll be able to fill that map up. There are different quests for like different neighborhoods. They'll kind of get you out exploring the different neighborhoods. And then there is also a town model, which is just in like a glass case. This is actually used as kind of a ranger station. If you're struggling to find anything in the Jellyfish Junction neighborhood, just go to that town model and it will take you over to the things that you need to see. But definitely explore this area because you've got the fitness retreat kind of happening on the dock. and then the Flow and Flow festival happens on like the other beach. I kept getting like discombobulated with finding my way around this neighborhood, but it is quite pretty. It kind of gives Life is Strange Arcadia Bay energy. For the 40 by 30 vacation residential, this is Jellyfish Jubilee. Situated in the heart of the bustling seaside neighborhood, this rental home offers vacationers modern comfort and easy access to local attractions and amenities. Perfect for an enjoyable and convenient getaway. There's kind of like a teenager's bedroom in here, and then bunk beds, I'm fairly sure, in the kids' room. So you could probably have up to like 5 Sims staying in this vacation rental. The other 40 by 30 is actually owned by the Perry family. Frida Perry never expected to be juggling her Revive and Thrive fitness retreat along with her shy, thoughtful grandson, Dougie. But here we are anyway. Frida spends her days spinning and encouraging others to reach for new gains whilst nudging Dougie to get outside and explore the world and perhaps unleash his own wild child. And they live in Seabreeze Scenic. This lot is located close to the center of Jellyfish Junction, but not too close to all the action. Then the 30 by 20 starter home is Fletcher's Cottage. This cozy starter home offers modern amenities and easy access to the bustling town square, ideal for those seeking a convenient coastal lifestyle. Finally, the Revive and Thrive retreat on the 64 by 64 overlooking the picturesque bay. Revive and Thrive retreat provides a serene escape to recharge and rejuvenate, featuring state-of-the-art fitness facilities and tranquil views for a truly refreshing experience. I really like the little like A-frame cabins that they've built on this lot. I think they're really cool. And that goes, of course, for all of the lots and the builders. There were 5 builders this time around. So we had Axie Sims, who made Wanderwood Wonder, Crystal Cottage, and Seabreeze Scenic. Then Danielle built Jellyfish Jubilee. Griffey built Camp Gibbi, Plumbird Park, and Fearful Fish Lounge. JJ Bink created the one and only Love Highland, and then Kiwi Sims Kate made Revive and Thrive Retreat, Miners Manse, and Fletcher's Cottage. Of course, as usual, I'm gonna have links to all of their channels or social if they don't do YouTube. Usually the builders of the packs will record videos kind of talking about their experience and what made them build the lots the way that they did. These, hands down, may be some of my favorite lots that we've had in any pack in The Sims 4. I really enjoy the kind of 70s aesthetic of build and buy mode. Is a little bit, I guess you could say, outdoor retreat-esque, but kind of pushed that little bit more. Honestly, I didn't spend too much time looking at build and buy mode. There are people that do build and buy overviews way better than I ever could, so I never really approached them on my channel. I know that Griffey probably has one up right now. It did feel slightly limited from what I did see of build and buy mode. There are a couple of cool like little features. There is like a new kind of counter, but it's sort of like a tray system that works as a counter. But apart from that, there really didn't feel like there were many standouts of build and buy mode for me. However, I do think they did an excellent job of these builds, so hats off to all of the builders. You lot have bloomin' smashed it. All super playable, all really nice builds to look at. I also think like logically this world just makes sense. Like it kind of has everything that I needed it to have, and I don't really feel like there's a lot placed down that maybe could have been something else or should have done something else, which is how I felt about the last couple of packs. But let's get into the townies. Considering he was the trailer sim, we're gonna focus on Nige and his family first. So when it comes to Nigel and Sarah, both of these, I'm fairly sure, are pansexual sims, which absolutely love that for the pansexuals. There is actually an awful lot of like the new pride art used in this pack. Obviously, it is really nice decor, and then also representing the gays for us as well. But these two are obviously married. They have a higher romantic relationship than they do a friendship. Honestly, I was expecting their relationship to be kind of more more on the rocks than it actually is. They do seem to be pretty happy, like even autonomously they were kind of like being affectionate to one another. I definitely thought it would be way more strained from kind of how they were describing these two. However, like I said, I'm fairly sure they do have separate bedrooms, and Nigel, story-wise, is definitely paying more attention to the camp than he is his home life. If you go to Camp Gibbi, he will actually be the director from the get-go. He has also stayed in touch with, sorry, I've been calling her Toshi this entire time. I think it might be pronounced Toshie, because I know that there's a Japanese city pronounced Toshi, but I think with an E on the end, it might be Toshie. However, he isn't actually friends with Raheem. Even though Raheem doesn't actually physically live in the world, he is available in Managed Worlds, whereas Toshie isn't available in Managed Worlds. She's just kind of this like NPC storyteller, which makes me think that potentially she can't age the same way that like Agnes Crumplebottom doesn't age, but I didn't play enough to actually know this. I mean, there's not much to say. There's not really any sentiments held by any of these townies, so what you see is kind of what you get with their relationships. However, he does have the trait of a seasoned camp director, and Sarah also has the trait of a seasoned camp counselor, which just means that they have the skills to lead a camp, cook hearty meals, care for children, and make them a great fit for themed getaways like outdoor kids camp, or they have the traits that mean that they are able to mentor kids actually in their skills. And then when it comes to the twins, again, they don't really seem to be in competition with each other the way that it was initially stated. They both like all of the children that are available, so they like each other, and then they also have a good friendship with both Buddy and Dougie, and obviously their parents. However, I will say that Erin does have a bad competitive spirit, which I'll get into in more depth in my gameplay overview, but this basically is summarized by if she loses a game, then she's more likely to rage, which just kind of plays an angry animation, and then you can actually improve their competitive spirit by encouraging healthy competitive spirit, offer competitive skill tips, celebrate a win, or successfully try to contain your rage. Contrary to that, you can obviously go even more negative, and then you are stuck with that competitive spirit being in the negative, which you can over celebrate a win in rock paper scissors, hide and seek, etc., failing to try to contain rage about a loss, and then it will become abysmal, and then it will stay abysmal, but you get a confirmation before that. I guess one of the most interesting things is that Sarah actually dislikes Jane, and Jane dislikes Sarah, so maybe they were like jilted lovers in the past. Maybe something has gone on there. Whenever I see a dislike, my mind just goes straight to like a messy breakup. But it's obviously been a couple of years since that has happened, considering Sarah does actually have kids. I guess you could play through maybe a cheating storyline. It's completely up to you, but they do not like each other. Maybe Sarah just doesn't like Love Highland, and she just doesn't see a need for that to exist, and therefore she has beef with Jane. Moving on to the Adam commune. Again, nothing out of the ordinary here. Like I said, Jane does dislike Sarah for reasons that we don't actually know. A lot of these sims are obviously unemployed because they host getaways, and if you host a getaway, if you are a camp director or a host, you do actually earn money from that. People will pay you to attend those getaways, so you do still make money. Her relationship with Star is fine. They have pretty much the base for like any married couple, I'm fairly sure, like less friendship than they have romance. And then she's just acquaintances with both Skip and Agora. However, both her and Star have the seasoned romantic host trait, so cooking, caretaking, they're pretty much all the exact same between hosts and camp directors, and then also like the season singles that Skip and Agora actually are. Skip and Agora are both just acquaintances of everyone in their household. Those are the only relationships they have, but Skip is a seasoned fitness retreat guest and also a seasoned romantic single, which when you're actually hosting getaways, you can actually request that as like a trait that is necessary, or you can just have it as a trait that isn't necessary but does still exist, and it will kind of bump those people up to like the top of your list. When it comes to the Perry household, Frida unfortunately only knows Dougie, which I don't know, it just feels weird, especially for like hosts and like seasoned retreat leaders and stuff, that they didn't even try to give like cross-pack relationships between like base game sims and these sims, because you would think that these people, especially like Skip, who is a seasoned like fitness person and has gone to that retreat, you would think that he would know Frida, but unfortunately that is not the case. And then Dougie, like I said, knows and is friendly with all of the kids, actually really good friends with Buddy, which is quite sweet. Kind of doesn't make sense with him being a loner, and the fact that Frida, you know, bought an imaginary friend to kind of bring him out of his shell. He's apparently already thriving. And like I have stated, the butterfly conservationist is Lakshmi. They actually go by they them pronouns, and they don't live in a home in this world. However, you can find them out and about in Wanderwood Wilds neighborhood, and you will also find their brother Raheem, who I actually didn't check relationships. Maybe him and Toshie are friends. However, we do know that a relationship between him and Nigel no longer exists. But again, he also doesn't live in the world. You will see him an awful lot though. And he also wanders around Wanderwood. And you wonder why they call it Wanderwood. All in all, my thoughts, the builds are great. I absolutely love them. Once again, big shout out to the builders. I'm going to have all of their links down below. I'm usually a person who prefers kind of smaller neighborhoods so that things feel like more dense and there's more like people roaming around. However, even in these bigger ones, I didn't actually feel like my Sims were like ever alone. And even so, like they are meant to be wandering. They're meant to be out in the wild. I think the festivals and kind of having things happen make it definitely feel more alive. I never felt like my Sims were completely out there just like by themselves. And if you want to interact with people, you can. I do think it's quite a fun world to explore. If you have an outdoor retreat, yeah, you might say it feels similar to that, but obviously this is on a much bigger scale. There's not really any like hikes that you can do like you can in, for example, Snowy Escape. You can just send your sim on like walks, like go here, but there aren't like specific paths that they follow or anything like that. I think there's enough to explore to kind of fit the adventure awaits, but also I don't think it's anything special when it comes to a world, and I do think that the rumble of the geyser may like annoy a couple of people. There also is the typical problem of having like a fair bit of shells and a lot of kind of just decorative stuff that you can't actually interact with. This is especially true, like there's camping gear out, which is obviously used in like outdoor retreat, and they've kind of placed tents down in like specific parts, but no one's actually ever using it, and your sim can't use it, which makes sense because it is part of another pack. But it does feel a little weird that we didn't get like a tent or anything in this specific pack, because the world kind of feels like it should fit with just you being able to plop down a tent. I guess maybe they wanted to keep that to like outdoor retreat. They didn't want to devalue that pack specifically. It does feel a little odd. Not even a sleeping bag, even though both Growing Together and Horse Ranch had a sleeping bag. So I don't really feel like it hits the spot too much on the name, but that's more because like the Adventure Awaits name I think is a little weird anyway. Like, yeah, I guess you are going on like an adventure if you're a kid and like it's an adventure of imagination, but it doesn't really feel like any of this is more of an adventure than other packs that we have. In fact, it feels like slightly less of an adventure. And I think it's let down by the fact that like cross-pack compatibility, or I guess not even that, but other packs being restricted on what they have. For example, the climbing walls not being able to be used really anywhere else outside of Mount Komorebi. I think this world would have really like thrived as having a place where you could like go climb, and I don't know, I just feel like sometimes they limit the packs a little bit too much to the areas, whereas this one is like less about the world and things that you can do in the world. I think really the only things that are going to be limited are obviously like the quests, which are basically just fetch quests that we're used to seeing in packs recently, and also the panning. I really do hope that in the future they like cross-pack relationships and stuff, because at this point it's just feeling weird, and I really want them to step away from like Sims only knowing the Sims in their worlds. I just don't really think it makes sense, especially like I said in a pack of this theme. But thank you all so much for tuning in, and definitely tune in later, hopefully fingers crossed, if I get that video finished for my gameplay overview.